Lily was not like other children. While they were busy kicking balls and making a dreadful racket, Lily preferred the quiet company of dirt. She loved the feel of cool earth between her fingers. She loved the smell of the soil after a good long rain. Her own garden patch behind her small cottage was, to put it mildly, a bit sad. The carrots were stubbornly small. The daisies drooped their heads as if they were terribly bored. Lily wished with all her might for a garden that fizzed and popped with life. A garden full of splendiferous colours and magnificent blooms that would make your eyes go wide. She wanted a garden that was, in a word, magical. One afternoon, while rummaging through her grandpa's old dusty shed, she found something quite queer. It was a paintbrush. It wasn't a normal paintbrush, mind you. This one had a handle carved from a twisty, gnarled piece of wood that felt warm to the touch. Its bristles were the colour of a sunset, a swirl of orange, pink and purple. There was a tiny, almost invisible inscription on the handle that read, "Paint what you wish, but tend it with heart." Lily felt a strange tingle run up her arm as she held it. It felt important. It felt like a secret. It felt like the beginning of something tremendous. She took the peculiar paintbrush back to her sad little patch of earth. There were no paints, of course. Where would a girl find paints in a dusty old shed? But this didn't seem to matter. Lily closed her eyes and thought of the most brilliant, blazing red she could imagine. She pictured a rose, not a measly little bud, but a great glorious rose with petals as soft as velvet. She dipped the dry bristles of the peculiar paintbrush onto a bare patch of dirt, and with a hopeful heart she began to paint the shape of a flower right there on the ground. It was a silly thing to do, painting on dirt, but something inside her insisted it was right. The moment the last bristle left the soil, a tiny green sprout poked its head up. It was a most impatient sprout. It did not wait for days or weeks. It grew right before her very eyes, twisting and turning, climbing higher and higher in a matter of seconds. Leaves unfurled, a deep and glossy green. Then a bud appeared, swelling and growing until it burst open into the most magnificent red rose Lily had ever seen. It was the exact rose from her imagination, smelling of sweet jam and summer sunshine. Lily gasped. The paintbrush wasn't just peculiar, it was pure, bubbling, brilliant magic. Lily could hardly believe her eyes. She giggled, a sound like little bells tinkling. The magic was real. Her heart thumped against her ribs like a trapped bird. She did not waste a single moment. Thinking of the sunniest yellow, she painted a tall, grinning sunflower. Whoosh! Up it shot, turning its face immediately towards the sun, even though the sun was hiding behind a cloud. It seemed to have its own sun inside. Then she thought of a deep, dreamy blue and painted a cluster of bluebells. Ding-dong, they appeared in a flash, and Lily could almost hear them ringing, a silent, happy tune. She danced around her little patch, her feet barely touching the ground. She painted stripes of purple lavender that smelled so calming it could make a grumpy badger want to take a nap. She dabbed splotches of zippy orange for poppies that bobbed their heads in the breeze. She swirled the brush to create rambling vines with tiny star-shaped jasmine flowers. The garden was no longer a sad, droopy place. It was a riot of colour, a splish-splash of life that pulsed and vibrated. Each plant was more vivid and more alive than any she had ever seen in a book or another person's garden. The magic, she soon discovered, was not just in the colours. When she painted a big, juicy strawberry, it didn't just look juicy, it was the juiciest, sweetest strawberry in the entire world. One bite, and her mouth was filled with the taste of pure happiness. She painted a row of carrots, and this time they were not stubbornly small. They were enormous, crunchy, and dazzlingly orange. They tasted of the good, clean earth and a little bit of sunshine. Everything she painted was the very best version of itself, filled with a special kind of magical goodness that made you feel warm from your toes to the tips of your ears. The garden grew with every thought. Lily painted a babbling brook that chuckled and gurgled as it snaked its way between the flower beds. The water wasn't just wet, it sparkled with 1,000 tiny diamonds and sounded like laughter. She painted smooth grey stones for the brook's edge, and they became warm to the touch, perfect for sitting on. She painted a weeping willow tree whose long, graceful branches swayed and whispered secrets to the wind. In a few short hours, the sad little patch of dirt had been transformed into a breathtaking sanctuary, a world born from a little girl's imagination and a peculiar, wonderful paintbrush. A garden so full of life needed friends. Lily knew this, so she thought very hard about the friendliest creatures she could imagine. First, she painted a butterfly. She gave it wings of sapphire blue and dusty gold. No sooner had she finished than the butterfly lifted off the ground, fluttering its newly painted wings. It danced through the air, flitting from the giant rose to the grinning sunflower, a tiny jewel of life. Then she painted a bumblebee, making him extra fat and fuzzy with bold stripes of black and yellow. He immediately began to buzz, a low, contented hum as he went about his important business of visiting the bluebells. Lily wanted more company. She decided the garden needed a guardian. She painted a squirrel with a big, bushy tail, the color of autumn leaves. He scampered up the weeping willow tree in a flash, his little black eyes sparkling with mischief. He chattered happily, already looking for a place to hide the giant, magical nuts Lily would surely paint for him later. Next, she painted a family of ladybugs, each one a perfect shiny red dot with precisely 7 black spots. They crawled onto the large leaves of the poppies, ready to feast on any pesky aphids, though in this perfect garden there were none to be found. Her painted creatures were gentle and kind. The fuzzy bumblebee didn't have a sting. The squirrel, whose name she decided was Squeaky, never stole seeds, but instead helped to plant them, burying them with his nose in just the right spots. The butterfly would sometimes land on Lily's shoulder, its delicate wings tickling her cheek. They were not just pictures come to life. They were imbued with the same gentle spirit that Lily poured into her painting. They played amongst the flowers, creating a symphony of soft buzzing, happy chattering, and silent, colorful flight. The garden was now not just beautiful, it was full and noisy with happy life. The animals from the village started to notice. A shy little hedgehog, often chased by dogs, found his way under the lavender bushes where the calming scent let him sleep soundly. A flock of sparrows, tired of searching for crumbs, discovered the ever-ripe berries on the bushes Lily had painted. The garden became a secret haven. The painted animals welcomed the real ones. Squeaky the squirrel would show the sparrows the best berries, and the painted butterfly would lead the shy hedgehog to the softest patch of moss. The garden was a place of friendship for all creatures, painted or real. Lily quickly learned that a magical garden needed more than just a magical paintbrush. It needed care. The weeping willow whispered to her when it was thirsty, its leaves rustling in a special way. The roses would droop ever so slightly if they felt lonely, perking up the moment Lily came to talk to them. She learned that nurturing her creation was a magic all its own. She spent her days tending to the plants, pulling imaginary weeds, and ensuring the babbling brook always chuckled. The garden responded to her love, growing more vibrant and more wonderful with each passing day. It was a partnership. Patience was a lesson the garden taught her every single day. Although the plants appeared in a flash, she learned that their real beauty came from watching them live. She would sit on the warm stones by the brook and watch the painted ladybugs raise a family of tiny painted baby ladybugs. She watched Squeaky the squirrel carefully store painted acorns for a winter that would never come. She saw the magic wasn't just in the sudden creation, but in the slow, peaceful continuation of life. The joy was not just in the painting, it was in the watching, the tending, and the waiting. This was a deeper, quieter magic. News of the amazing garden spread through the village, not by words, but by the happiness of its animals. The baker's cat, who was always grumpy, was seen purring contentedly under Lily's giant sunflower. The farmer's old dog, whose legs were stiff, would come to lie in the soft, magical grass and seem to move more easily afterward. The children of the village followed the happy creatures and peeked over the fence, their eyes wide with wonder at the impossible colors and the friendly, fearless animals who lived there. They saw Lily not painting, but talking to her flowers and sharing her magical strawberries with a little brown rabbit. Lily never kept the garden a secret. She opened the gate. She let the other children come in and share the wonder. She showed them how the brook sparkled and how the squirrel would chatter a hello. The garden became a gift to everyone, a place of peace and joy for people and animals alike. Lily discovered the greatest magic of all was not the peculiar paintbrush, nor the instant flowers, but the happiness that came from sharing her beautiful, vibrant world. Her heart was as full and as bright as the magical garden she'd brought to life, a testament to the splendiferous power of nurturing and sharing.